A quiet bus ride turns into a brutal fight when Hutch Mansell, an unassuming family man, takes on a gang of thugs. But this isn't just any man, he's a trained killer with a dark past. When his family is threatened, Hutch's true identity erupts in a storm of violence. This is no ordinary revenge story. The movie opens with Hutch Mansell, battered and bruised, sitting quietly in a dimly lit interrogation room. Two FBI agents lean in, their questions sharp, demanding to know who he really is. But Hutch, his face calm despite the visible injuries, gives a simple answer: "I'm nobody." We're pulled into a flashback. Hutch lives a monotonous, routine life. Like any family man, he goes to work daily, repeating the same tasks week after week. One small but constant frustration: he always misses the garbage truck, earning him a scolding from his wife. This pattern continues until one Monday night, when things take an unexpected turn. As Hutch lies in bed beside his wife, he hears a faint noise from downstairs. Assuming it's his kids, he checks their rooms but finds his teenage son, Blake, still asleep. That's when Hutch realizes something is wrong. There are strangers in the house. Before he can call the police, the burglars notice him and begin to threaten him. They take his wedding ring, as the family doesn't own anything of significant value. As one of the thieves tries to snatch Hutch's watch, Hutch notices a distinctive tattoo on the thief's hand. Suddenly, Blake jumps into action, getting into a scuffle with the intruder. Hutch has the perfect chance to intervene and take down the burglar from behind. But to Blake's shock, Hutch hesitates, telling his son to let the thief go. Confused and stunned, Blake listens, only to be punched in the face for it. The thieves escape without much damage, but the weight of Hutch's inaction hangs heavy in the air. His family, and everyone around him, sees him as weak, a failure. But Hutch knows something they don't. He confides in his brother Harry, revealing that he didn't fight because he noticed the burglar's gun wasn't loaded. He had assessed the situation in seconds, choosing not to escalate. Still, the humiliation lingers. His brother-in-law Charlie hears about the robbery, and he gives Hutch a gun, so that next time a thief enters his house, he can protect his family. Despite his reluctance, Hutch accepts the gun and hides it in the fridge in his office. Hutch's calm facade continues as he offers to buy out his father-in-law Eddie's business, but Eddie dismisses the offer as too low. Things take a turn the next evening, when Abby notices her beloved kitty cat bracelet is missing. That's the breaking point for Hutch. Determined to get it back, he recalls a tattoo on one of the thieves and sets out to track them down. His journey leads him to a dingy tattoo parlor, where he intimidates the thugs there, demanding answers.
Thank you for your service. The direction of this person.
He finally tracks down the thieves, a couple living in poverty, struggling to care for their sick baby. They don't have the bracelet. They weren't hardened criminals, just desperate people. Disgusted and frustrated, Hutch leaves. While heading home on a quiet, late-night bus, Hutch finds himself seated across from a group of loud, intoxicated thugs. Their eyes are fixed on a young woman, who clearly wants nothing to do with them, but their harassment only escalates. Hutch watches for a moment, his face breaking into a small, knowing smile. What happens next is swift and brutal. Hutch launches into action, dismantling the thugs with precise, almost mechanical force. Each move is a masterclass in violence. By the end, the thugs are bloodied and beaten. Hutch delivers a blow that crushes Teddy's windpipe, but then something shifts in him. And despite the violence, he performs a crude cricothyroidotomy using a straw to help Teddy breathe. It's a small act of mercy, but it isn't enough. Teddy later slips into a coma and dies from his injuries. Unbeknownst to Hutch, the group's leader, Teddy, is no ordinary thug. He's the brother of Yulian Kuznetsov, a ruthless Russian crime lord who controls the mafia's Obshchak, their treasury, a lifeline of power and money. Hutch returns home bruised but alive, where Becca bandages his wounds in silence. It's clear she knows who her husband really is, though the life they've been living doesn't reflect that. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Hutch vents his frustrations to her, admitting how suffocated he feels by the monotony of their life. But something softens between them. They reaffirm their love, a quiet bond rekindled in the aftermath of violence. Meanwhile, Julian, a man who thrives on control and fear, learns about his brother's fate and sets his sights on Hutch. Using a dropped Metro card from the scene, Julian traces Hutch's identity. Determined to avenge Teddy, Julian blackmails a high-ranking official from the Department of Defense to dig into Hutch's past. What he uncovers is something far more dangerous than he expected. Now that Julian knows exactly who Hutch is, he instructs his men to capture him alive. During the long-awaited family dinner, Hutch spots several cars pulling up near their house. Realizing what's about to happen, he calmly leads his family to the secure basement, instructing them to stay put. After kissing his wife, Becca, he closes the basement door, cuts the power to the house, and readies himself for the incoming danger. One by one, Hutch takes down the intruders with brutal precision, dispatching them as if it were second nature. However, in the final moments of the fight, they manage to knock him out. They shove him into the trunk of a car, thinking the worst is over. As the surviving men head back to Julian, Hutch regains consciousness. Using a clever trick, he frees himself from the handcuffs and causes the car to crash, killing the last of his captors. Hutch emerges as the sole survivor and returns home unscathed. Back home, Hutch sits his family down and finally reveals the truth. He wasn't just an ordinary office worker, but a former auditor, a lethal assassin employed by the United States intelligence community to eliminate threats with ruthless efficiency. But one day, Hutch made a choice. He spared a target, a man who went on to change his life and live peacefully with a new family. That decision sparked something in Hutch, a longing for a life beyond violence. So he retired, hoping to find peace in the quiet suburban life. Hutch, now fully embracing his dangerous past, sends his family to safety and begins to prepare for the inevitable showdown. He retrieves his hidden stash of gold and cash, and while searching the house, he finds Abby's missing kitty cat bracelet under the couch. An ironic twist, he burns his house down, using the fire to dispose of the bodies of the attackers lying in the basement. He then steals his neighbor's Dodge Challenger and speeds off. Meanwhile, 2 assassins are dispatched to kill Hutch's father, David, at his retirement home. But David, a former government agent himself, hasn't lost his edge. In a smooth, almost effortless manner, he eliminates the would-be killers before they can even get close. Back in control, Hutch uses his gold to purchase his father-in-law's metal fabrication factory. But this is no ordinary business transaction. Hutch turns the entire factory into a deadly trap, rigging it with booby traps, preparing for war. His next move? Destroying Julian's fortune. Hutch infiltrates the Russian mob's abstract money and burns it all, crippling Julian's power. Hutch then confronts Julian face-to-face and offers a deal. End the fighting now. Julian, struggling under the weight of losing his funds, considers it. Hutch even suggests that Julian retire peacefully to a remote Caribbean island, far from the reach of the Russian mafia. It's a tempting offer, but Julian's pride won't let him walk away so easily. Despite his financial ruin, he decides to hunt Hutch down. In the final showdown, Julian and his men track Hutch to the booby-trapped factory. They surround him, thinking they have the upper hand, but Hutch has backup. Out of nowhere, Harry and David join the fight. The trio, armed and ready, tear through Julian's mob, ending in a climactic battle where Julian himself is killed. The Russian mob is wiped out, leaving Hutch and his family safe for now. As the police arrive, the movie loops back to the opening scene, with Hutch once again in an interrogation room. Just as before, he's suddenly released without any charges, thanks to a mysterious phone call. Fast forward 3 months, and life seems to have returned to normal for Hutch and his family. They're buying a new house, seemingly ready to settle down again. But just as they're getting comfortable, Hutch receives a phone call, hinting that his troubles may not be over yet. In a post-credit scene, we see David and Harry driving off in a family caravan, armed to the teeth and ready for whatever comes next, leaving the possibility of more chaos hanging in the air. What do you think of this action-packed recap? Comment below with your thoughts, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe for more movie breakdowns and recaps.